Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashlie Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
All right, everyone, welcome back. We have Dr. John Townsend with us today. Good afternoon, John. How you doing?
Hey, Ashlie. Hey, Gilbert.
Hello, hello.
Well, we are excited for this one. We have got a great topic to discuss here today. We're even more excited because this topic was actually written in by one of our students here at the Townsend Institute. We asked our students, give us the topics. What do you want to hear more of here on the Tips podcast? And buckle your seatbelts because this one's going to be fun.
Does that mean that some of our students aren't learning everything in the universe and have to ask a podcast for the information? Are we being negligent here, or?
No, I don't think so. I think they're coming more to ask you.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Not just any podcast. We have to be careful.
That's right.
So today's topic of conversation is talking about leading through change or transition in our businesses and our organization. So to start us off, Dr. Townsend, can you give us a good working definition or explanation for organizational and business transition?
Absolutely, Ashlie. Number one, it can be confusing because I see a difference in organizations, whether it's family-owned business or somebody's entrepreneurial gig, or a small business or corporation, or NGOs or whatever, or government work, whatever the organizational structure. Change is a constant. Transition is not a constant. Now, a change means that if you're not changing, you're going to die. Everybody knows that from all the research about organizations, right? Change or die. It's not like there's no such thing as stagnant. We're just plodding along. Stuff happens. Transition is a little more narrow. I would look at like a subset of that, where there's going to be some significant event coming on. I'll give you some examples. Like if it's in a family business, maybe some of the principals are prepared, or principal is preparing to retire. That's a transition. Or maybe there's somebody coming up in the ranks that's maybe a good person to succeed, and maybe a younger person who's got lots of talent, and they're looking at that. Or you're looking for, is this organization private now? Do they want to go public? Do they want to cash out? Do they want to turn into a REIT or an ESOP? Those sorts of things. So it's kind of two different animals, but one's a smaller subset of the other.
I like that, how you kind of transition from transition to
change. Transition.
Yeah, I like that. I use that a little too often. But how did you get into this business of helping, through leadership changes within organizations?
Well, I got into leadership through doing a lot of clinical work and speaking, and then people would come up and say, look, I'm not depressed, and my kids are okay, they're not out of control, but I like these principles about health and relationship and vulnerability and boundaries, and do you have anything for me to make my business better? And so I started developing models to go, maybe nothing's broken clinically with depression issues or whatever, but people want to be better. They want to be optimized. And so and contextualizing it to the way organizations grow. And then you said, how do I get into the change thing? Because that's kind of what they started bringing to me once I started doing that kind of work, would be, we don't handle change well. We find that somebody comes in and they're running a department, but they ignore everything that was done before. They ignore the traditions. They ignore the culture, the tribal knowledge. And all of a sudden, everybody's feeling irritated and scared and all that. So can you help us with change itself?
Now, here's an interesting thing, because when you are approaching change in an organization, business doesn't typically just stop. Right? You're not going to close your doors for the weeks or months leading up to this change, right? Talk about shooting yourself in the foot one way or another. So how can businesses stay focused on the day-to-day operations of things that need to get done while also embarking on what for some is pretty monumental change.
Yeah, it's sort of like they say, how do you repair the airplane when you're flying the airplane?
Oh gosh,
Kind of
hopefully not.
tricky. Well, it's tricky, right? Most of the time you try not to even get off the runway, but a business can't do that. And so
Didn't
you
that just
have to.
happen? Didn't that just happen with Boeing the other day, right? Didn't they have a door come off or
I
something?
was gonna say too soon, too
Yeah, oh,
soon.
too
Too
soon.
soon.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that. But it's just true. The lights have got to stay on. People got to stay employed. You got to be producing something. And so unless there's some total 911 like a emergency where I don't know, maybe the company's going to go out of cash or they're going to split because of division or the product is some major problem. Unless you're at some 911, what you have to do like anything else, guys, you have to allocate the resources and priority. Any kind of organization's got certain resources. If you've got a certain amount of cash, you've got a certain amount of, people equity, the people that are key people that can only do these things. You've got a certain amount of time and, a market that will sustain so many things and systems. And so to run that, all those have to be in place. If you're going to change, you've got to measure how critical is this, and is it urgent or is it important or is it urgent and important? Because if it's urgent and not important, and I say this with all respect, people that are kind of OCD about this, don't give in to the OCD. If it's urgent and not important, wait a little bit. If it's important and not urgent, get to it. If it's important as urgent and urgent, you got to start. So you have to sit down and say, what is it taking us? So let's suppose it's an urgent and important thing. Okay, got it. What you have to do then is sit down with your key people and say, what is the bare minimum it's going to take of our resources, people, money, cash, the systems and that sort of thing, time, so that we can keep things running. We won't make the profits we needed to make, but we've got to make these changes or there'll be a lot less product. And somebody makes the call. Generally, it's going to be CEO, COO, and CFO, that kind of triad, and say, okay, we can take away these things to keep the lean, mean machine going without a lot of bells and whistles. And we can do it for, I don't know, 6 months or so. And that's how you allocate what it takes to keep things going. Because you cannot let go of the business to make the change happen, because business will just not respond that way.
I like that urgent and important. I think about, with your Townsend growth model, you even talk about integration, holding the good and the bad, because sometimes leaders say, oh, this, everything's urgent and important, and they worry their people and they burn them out and things.
Mhm.
One thing I'm curious about, though, because some students have asked, is intricacies of like say a family business.
Mhm.
What I mean, it doesn't end when you go home at Thanksgiving dinner when you're passing the potatoes. People are like, well, how did you get that report done? And right, I mean, how do you handle that with change?
Well, I think it's like you said, an integration issue, which is one of the things we talk about at Institute. How do you know what's perfect, what's not perfect? How can you accept the imperfections in yourself and others in the environment? But you know what else? It's also a boundaries issue.
Mm.
And it's like when Henry and I rewrote the Boundaries book, Henry Cloud and I. We talked about in a digital age how you can get swallowed up in that. I mean, it can take all your time. In fact, one day I reached the end of the internet. It was just really interesting. No, just joking.
Congratulations.
But thank you.
That's amazing.
So intuitively, that's what they tend to do, is they still talk about that report where you're trying to connect and bring people out and be vulnerable and enrich each other, and you have to set an artificial boundary. And you just can't say, oh, we'll do it naturally, because business is interesting and it takes up your time and you've been thinking about it all day. You just go to dinner and you keep talking because that's who we are, and you have to have a meeting really, if you're going to do this right as a family, and say, we want to hear what the kids did at school, and I want to talk to each other and talk about growth things with ourselves. Maybe it's something about, how everybody's doing, how we communicate, how we doing emotionally, spiritually, any problems we're having. But to do that, mom and dad, we will reserve the majority of our conversations about the day to later when the kiddos aren't there. Now, they can bring up some things because you don't want to just be robots in the room, but you have to say, um, when I walk in the room, what I'll tell parents to do is go ahead and go out 15 minutes I mean, leave the TV on, let them watch a video or something, and just decompress each other for 15 minutes. How was your day? It was all 20 minutes, 10 minutes and 10 minutes. The kids won't freak out. And then come back and you feel like, okay, I'm not all alone. I got heard and I had a transitional 15, 20 minutes with my spouse. There's the word again. And they feel like, okay, now I can listen to the kids and help and enrich them. If you don't do that, if you're not intentional about the transition, life takes over and it won't happen.
For the most part, many of us are very impatient people, right? Especially when we talk about change. A lot of this change can be exciting and we want to wake up tomorrow morning, like Christmas morning, and it's all done. Obviously, that's not realistic when it comes to business, whether it's family or not. So my question is, what does a healthy change timeline look like?
Well, number one, it is a timeline. It's not just a choice. And when people say, "Oh, we just chose to go from sneakers to selling yogurt yesterday," no, no, no. There has to be a timeline. You have to take your get it done now hat off and say, if I want to be in for the long run and I want our company to be around for a long time, I need to create this timeline. Now let me just give you the elements of it because it's a lot of variance, but I want to give you the universals. One is what do we want to accomplish in the change? You know, new leadership or a new product line or new avenues of cash or somebody's retiring or whatever. What do we want to accomplish? And this is not with the whole, if you've got 200 employees, it's not with the 200 employees. It would just disrupt them. You bring them in later. But the key players. And then secondly, to say, what's it going to do to get there? We talked about that a bit earlier. So what do we need? Do we need to bring a consultant in? Do we need to have money from other places? Do we need to have experts who are better at yogurt than they are at shoes or whatever? And so you've got to say, what's going to be involved? And look at that as you could take your basic boilerplate strategic, plan that you can get anywhere on the internet and find that. Now, once you've got, here's where we want to go, here's where we want to be at the end of some period of time, but as a different organization, here's the strategic plan. Now we haven't gotten into the normal inertia of organizations because change is horrible for people. It's easier in families, I think, because families are non-conditional. You love your family no matter what, but businesses are conditional. You might be out the door and you might, not have, you might get a demotion or whatever. So people are more resistant because it's scary for them. So you've got to spend some time, A, respecting where people are right now. B, talking about how it's going to impact them so you're not surprised by anything. C, messaging to the leaders of the leaders and saying, we want to understand before we get to the whole 200 people, we want to get to that level, the people that are supervising those people, what are they going to be afraid of? D, having answers for that, unless you've got 100,000 people in your organization, it's kind of hard to do, have the town hall of some sorts. And we're rolling out this and we're excited. But the big mistake people make when they do that is they come in with all the smoke and mirrors. This is going to be great. You're going to be so excited. People going, am I going to be here? What are you talking about? And they have this resistance and out of terror. And if you don't listen to that fear first and say, we're doing a lot of research. We got some things in mind. We got a thing we want to roll out. And here's the basics of it. But today is your day. We want to spend 2 hours listening to you. And they'll tell you, what about my job? Or we can't do that. We can't afford that. What about this? And you better have somebody to take notes because a lot of times people have what's called tribal information, tribal knowledge. They may change a lot of your ideas because they're on the ground floor, maybe working the machines or, working on sales at a level that you don't know things. So you learn from them, go back, and then what you do is you tweak your system and then you come back and say, is this closer? Now they've been listened to, they've been heard. Hey, at the Institute, what do we talk about all the time? Attunement, attunement, attunement. You've heard before you've told them how great your plan is. They're much more willing to do that. And then you've got to have somebody to execute the plan. And that just means strategic operations and monitoring and those sorts of things.
Attunement. That goes such a long ways with leaders and people in the organization. Absolutely. Yep. So when we talk about this change, sometimes there's a period where a person might have to kind of almost do 2 jobs. And unfortunately, that can last for a long time. what are your suggestions for how folks can even kind of advocate or set boundaries for themselves when they are put in this position of, hey, you got to run two roles?
It's a great question, Gilbert. And this is where what's called managing upwards comes in. Because if you did not set those roles for yourself, if you're an employee or a consultant or or some kind of coming in independent contractor, and you've been told you've been doing this job for 40 hours a week, and now we want to make it 60 because we're going through a change, you have to manage upwards.
Mhm.
And a lot of times HR can help with that. A healthy company with a healthy human resources can say, whoa, 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 this person's going to get depressed or divorced, or, you're going to lose some talent here. And we don't want a revolving door. If you read Gallup, there's a revolving door and people are not engaged and they have, slow quitting and those sorts of things. Do you really want to do that? HR is very, very, very tuned to that. But suppose you got something smaller, then you got to go to your boss and basically what you got to say is, number one, I'm a team player. I want you to succeed, because bosses that are doing on the top of the chain are a lot of times like everybody's yelling at them. Everybody wants a piece of them. Everybody's upset. Everybody's irritated. So they answer the next call and they kind of dread their life. But Sam or Susie employer, you're going to come in and get something the right way. You come in and say, by the way, I hear about all the changes and I'm a team player. I want whatever pressure you're feeling from your board or from your clients or your president, whatever. I want to end your burden. It's not all about me. I don't think you hear that enough, and I'm literally a team player, and I want to help. Having said that, I see the plan. I like the plan, but for me to go from 40 to 60 for the next 3 months, you're not going to get what you need out of me. And I'm just talking about the physics of the matter. My brain won't work as well as it could and whatever. So what can we do to change that? In other words, you're not the one that says, I'm only going to work 50. I mean, people are going to say, well, there's another, complaining loser. But if you say, help me to make something that will make you better, a lot more, a lot better chance, unless the organization is totally psycho. Not so there are some, but unless they are, the person's much more amenable to say, you're doing this as a we with me. You're doing this as a cooperation with me. They feel collaborative, and the boss is much more likely to make it an us thing.
It's important to know because I think there are a lot of people that get stuck between those two rocks of, this might be my actual job description, but now I've taken on all of these roles. And for some people, maybe they've been doing it for months or years. So then it's, how do I get out of it? So,
Right. And you can assume if you're not saying anything about it and you're still producing at that level,
yeah.
what boss in their right mind is going to say, well, stop that. So you've got to be the one who, in a nice way, advocates for yourself, but in a way that also keeps the organization positive too.
Now, when we're thinking about these businesses who are on the precipice of change, so it's not here yet, but they can see it in the future. And for some, maybe it's still 2 or 3 years away, right? Maybe they have a, senior management that they know is on the brink of retirement.
Uh-huh.
How can those businesses and leaders prepare for change, even if it is years away, or should they? Are they just overthinking it?
I think it's the other way around, Ashley. I think every healthy organization thinks about these things 2 or 3 years ahead of time. I mean, even in bigger ones, even more. And so it should not be the exception. It should be the norm. Like, things are going well, but down the line, X is going to happen. And what are we doing about succession planning? Where are we finding the person? What's what's the future product going to look like? And what are we doing right now? And I always tell people, start pushing that precipice thinking to, there's a mountain coming ahead, but it's still coming. It's far away, but it's coming. And always, 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 when you know there's something going on, return to your mission. Okay, there's something happening. Let's get our compass back. Smith Shoes has been making shoes in North America for so long, and we make a great leather and plastic and rubber shoe that keeps families. I'm just making stuff up, but go back to the mission. And once you got the compass in place, see if you need to change the vision, because sometimes that will change, but and your values should not change. But review all that stuff and then go in light of that lens. I mean, don't put it in the desk and forget about it. It's there to save your life. So in light of that lens of mission, vision, values, how can we best approach that change? And people will be amazed. They'll go, I don't look at it like I used to. And now that this is coming, well, we're going to hit this direction, not the other direction. It so centers you.
And if anyone has questions about their mission, vision, values, then stop right there on the whole change aspect. Go back and listen to John's episode on the leadership funnel, and let's get back to that before we
Yes,
embark on something. That's a
exactly.
great point.
You've heard the statement, what is it, ready, aim, fire, and a lot of organizations, it's fire, fire, fire.
Yeah.
It's not a recipe for success. There's a reason you have that mission statement. It should be a living document.
Yeah. Well, let's chat about that. I know you've worked with a lot of organizations, John. Can you think of a change in an organization that actually went really well, and how did they do it?
A lot, but you have to the lots means that either they already had a system for doing that was in other areas. I mean, anything from we're adding a product or subtracting a product to we're changing our organizational structure to leadership. But whatever the context was, they had a system for this. They thought through this, like we're talking about right now, or they knew they didn't have that and they adopted it. Either their HR people were really good at learning that stuff, or they brought a consultant in or a coach or whatever. So the ones that did it well listened to reality and not to what they wanted reality to be. And that's the basic difference. Mm-hmm. Well, we want to be at whatever. And yeah, well, you can't be because we want to be at 100 million. What are you at now? 10 million. Well, when? 5 years. Well, that's unless you've got the next Bitcoin coming down, you're not going to be that. And so do they listen to reality? And reality means what's the limits? Where is the money? Where's the market going? How's the economy? And I guess what I'm saying is the ones that succeeded listened to the bad news and didn't refuse it by saying, I just want to be positive. That's just ostrich thinking. The ones that did it, okay, these are the obstacles and they're real obstacles. Now what can we do? And they would adapt things and change things and all that. And they were okay.
Yeah. John, I think about even in our Townsend Institute, I just think about during when COVID hit, right? We went from in person to having to do all of it, like many people, online. And we worked really, really hard to still give them that connection and all that. And, the students, they certainly wanted to be in face-to-face, but they understood and they embraced it and we embraced it. And I just think that changed. We had to accept the reality of what we were given at that point.
It's a great example. And I think that fact that our team accepted the reality helped us to pivot much quicker than a lot of other organizations because nobody yelled about that and said it was too weird. It was like, there's the only way we're going to make it. And so, yeah, those who pivot well have listened to reality first, especially negative reality.
As someone who was a part of those conversations too, going back to a few years ago, I just think the trust that we have in our organization at the Institute went a long way. There were some really real and difficult conversations that were had around that time, right? I mean, I think the whole world, there was kind of this element of fear, for other reasons, but from an organizational standpoint, we were able to be open and honest about, okay, as we make these changes, what could go well and what could blow up in flames, and let's talk about those. So that was very helpful.
Yeah, so let's take that great example and go today. I mean, hopefully all that stuff is over and people are thinking, okay, I've got a different kind of change coming. And to your point, Ashlie, one of the biggest elements that will help change or will hinder change is, like you said, is trust. And do people feel listened to? Leaders we all have a tendency to think that everything coming out of our mouth is the next golden nugget, and sometimes you got to tell a leader, you're great, but can you take a breath between your nuggets? It's just, because they just go on and on and on. And I get it, and God bless them. But I think most leaders should talk about 50% less than they do in the meetings and have their people feel heard and understood about 50% more. And that changes everything because being listened to your point, then creates the trust that makes them amenable to change. Like, well, you have heard me. I will cooperate with you. I'm not going to dig in my heels. And if you want to do something really, really courageous as a leader, get them one-on-one with your top people and say, tell me how I'm listening to you. Mm. And there is no consequence to this. No, you'll fire me. Well, okay, maybe, but I'm not. But there'll be some that'll say, yeah, you're great. But sometimes I feel like you got this visionary thing and I wish you would kind of come my way. You better listen to that information. That might save your business.
Well, so many great tips and feedback that you've given us today, John, just for all businesses to consider, even those that might be smaller family businesses at all stages of change, even in preparation for change. I mean, this is a huge topic. I'm sure you could, you could talk for hours and hours, write a book on it, right? There you go.
Well, let me put that one on the list. That's great. Thanks, Ashlie.
Hey, you're welcome.
Going to
Just
be a
just
long
trying to
list
keep
here.
you in business a little longer. But as you know, we end all of our episodes the same way, and that is with the takeaway tip. So this whole idea of business or organizational change, what's the one tip you want to leave our listeners?
It's going to be kind of weird.
We like weird.
We like
Gilbert
weird.
really
Okay.
likes weird.
Yeah, I major in weird. Yeah.
Gilbert wants a pair of those plastic shoes you were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
could
God.
tell. I could tell. We'll talk offline. I'll make you.
Okay.
You might be able to be a partner. It's this. We always think as change as something to endure. Take an offensive view at it instead of a defensive view. Get out there, read the newspaper, whatever that is. Get online, get to the news, find out where things are, and you go after the changes instead of waiting in your little hut saying, "Oh, I hope there's not a big thunderstorm." Be courageous and say, "What can we change to be better?" I think those make the greatest and most exciting leaders.
I like that.
I like that. Yeah, embrace the change. Go after it. Yeah.
Go after it. Take the initiative.
The offense. Oh, well, thank you so much, John, for taking the time today and answering some of our students' questions. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely. If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.